Welcome, everybody, to Nitty Gritty of the Gamer's Guide, the panel that is debuting at BobCon in the year 2024. Thank you for being here and joining me as I am going over all of the things pertaining to the wonderful world of Pro Gamer's Guide alongside the guy who otherwise none of this would be here without, who recently moved all the way down south, Mr. Kevin A. Hinkle. Welcome, man.
Hey, what's going on? I know you.
I know you.
How's it going?
I'm great. Life is moving full steam ahead, especially with all the Pro Gamers Guide stuff. I know you've been unbelievably busy, literally uprooting your life. So the more important question is how are you?
I'm okay. This is my living room.
Yeah.
Also my office.
Yes.
Maybe also my bedroom. It could be all three. So, we're not here. That's nitty and gritty.
Yeah, it hit. Well, that's the whole point of what we're doing here today. So basically, before we dive into too much more, everybody has to buy an extra copy of Pro Gamer's Guide. So Kevin can move out of his living room. That's the main mission. That's the main mission.
Please. Yes.
Please.
So yeah, I moved. I was in Connecticut. I mean, if you guys didn't know, I was in Connecticut for a very long time, 13 years. That's where I was living in Connecticut. And now I am back in my hometown of Austin, Texas. And I'm in an apartment. So I went from a house to an apartment. So, and anybody that's moved across state lines, across the country knows that moving in and of itself is always a big pain.
Yep.
Always a mountain of logistical things. When you move that great of a distance, you're just dialing it all up even more. And so it just made it easier to just kind of get rid of almost everything and just really start over and kind of downgrade to get here. So I definitely don't foresee this as the long-term solution.
I mean, neither do I for you. Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. We're all fine. Everything's fine down here.
It's fine.
It is really nice to be back home. I mean, Austin. So I'm from Austin. If you guys didn't know, I'm a native Austinite. I am a Texan. Obviously, I've lived in other places in my life, but I am originally from Austin, Texas. So I'm back in my hometown and already doing some exploration of my old haunts. I'm also really excited when the school year starts again to take a copy of Pro Gamer's Guide to Healthy Habits and Making Friends to my elementary school. Because that just seems like it'd be a cool thing to do, is take it to my old elementary school.
That's coming full circle, man. And
it's kind of wild.
And that's kind of what I did last year when I delivered a bunch of books to Boston Children's Hospital. I got to right during the peak of Christmas time, just like drop off like a whole bunch of books for kids for Christmas. It's just cool things like that.
It's just a warm feeling.
Yeah. So we're all about that warm feeling and going a little bit behind the scenes on what Pro Gamer's Guide is and where we've started, where we've gone, and where we hope to go in the future with all of these things that are happening.
Surely everyone knows everything already.
Well, there's a lot of people know a lot of things. They want a lot of things, and going behind the scenes on what makes all this happen is basically what this is all about. It's like as if we were doing this panel at San Diego Comic-Con. It's airing during Comic-Con, except we're not at Comic-Con yet. So,
I should have made a little paper, a trifold nameplate to hold up.
Yes.
Like, at Comic-Con.
Yes.
They have the little next year.
Next time. Yes. That'll be what we do. So yeah, we're going to dive into the behind the scenes of Pro Gamer's Guide, starting from healthy habits, behind the scenes development on Pro Gamer's Guide to Making Friends, some concept art, and where we want to go in the future with the newly announced Pro Gamer's Guide fan club. So I wanted to start with where we started. In case you don't know, all of this process began with me in 2020 coming up with an idea to do a children's book. At the time, it was more Bricks O'Brien oriented and not Pro Gamer's Guide, its own brand in of itself. And I didn't really know what to do with it, but it was progressing and then ended up progressing poorly that was until I was very close to canceling the project, and some guy with a marvelous mustache swooped in mid other projects and said, "Hey, this is not happening. We're gonna do a thing," and that's how Pro Gamers Guide became what it is today.
Yeah.
It was a Kickstarter with Pro Gamers Guide to Healthy Habits, and even getting all of that together, all the components of explaining what this is and how do you create all the different tiers and what do you put on the table, because it's starting from nothing and developing it into what it is today. So I just think a lot of that stuff is interesting with how it began. But yeah, as we're going to take a look at actually the very first Kickstarter for Pro Gamers Guide to Healthy Habits, and where we kind of went from book 1 to book 2, because it's quite a difference, even from the artwork itself, but also how things are formatted. So when we were first starting with Pro Gamers Guide to Healthy Habits, I think we were just going to do like the book, but then it very quickly became like a crowdfunding project. Do you remember that idea? Because neither of us had done Kickstarters and stuff before, right?
No. And I mean, at the time, I was more so interested in not letting you destroy this dream. I mean, all of the expansive logistical, operational, strategic thinking, I'm like, that's not even on the radar. I just know that he wants this thing. He's about to stop this thing. So I'm going to make sure the thing doesn't stop, and I will draw pretty pictures. I kind of half listened to the rest of the stuff. I was like, I trust him. He's got it. I'm not going to worry about it. But the one thing I do remember that you were very adamant on was that it was all going to be completely secret until it was ready. Like, there was no teasing. It was just, you were gonna tell nobody about any of it, whether or not that was going to be crowdfunded or just announced or just released or whatever.
By the way, is a really bad idea if you're into marketing.
Very poor decision.
Very bad decision. Like
very poor decision.
Companies like Nintendo and Sony can pull that off because they got multi-billion-dollar marketing channels. We little Mr. O'Brien can't even put out consistent videos on YouTube, let alone have marketing dollars and campaigns.
According to Google, you have a net worth of at least $4.
No, it's up to like 2.1 million.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Nice. You don't pay me nearly enough.
Don't pay me nearly enough.
It's all just, anyway, as you were saying.
Well, I mean, yeah, having like all of this stuff come together and yeah, keeping it secret is generally a bad idea. I like, I mean, you know me. I like keeping secrets because like there's so many things that get leaked out in, general media, movies and TV show plots and whatever, that like I like keeping secrets. And if people care to be invested in what we're doing here, like, yeah, like surprise people. But yeah, it's a bad idea marketing wise. So
no.
I think in the future, I'm going to take a bit more of a traditional route when it comes to all of this stuff. But this was like a very nice surprise for people when it first came out. And you were definitely on board for the project itself with like the concept of it and all the artwork and whatnot too. You were working on another project for Autocracy Studios at the time. But I mean, everything by all intents and purposes is quality. It's just,
Thank you.
And we blew it out of the water, especially like
it did evolve a little bit as we were like, as the book was being made at the same time as you fleshing out this campaign.
Yeah.
Like they were happening together. Like I'm pretty confident, at least from my recollection as the process was going in the beginning, like I don't really recall cameos being a thing at the very beginning, and then all of a sudden it was a thing, and I was like, oh, okay, I should leave space for people to be in this.
So
like some of that stuff was happening in real time parallel to the book being made.
I think I remember a moment where like I was talking to you about this, and yeah, we wanted to, or I wanted to have it be a secret thing, and then I thought with the gaming scene specifically, including people in it, and like how do you decide who to put in the book and how can you make it interactive with people and give people a chance to like be featured in copies of the book or acknowledged in some way, shape, and form. And then the Kickstarter quickly became like an idea that, you know, this community that we've built individually as you as Kevin and me as Bricks O'Brien, that can come together for this unifying project and make something unique. So making its own community and category around it was very interesting, and it definitely evolved into it where you could be in the book prominently, either having a little more creative freedom and more prominent spot with your scene, basically getting a commission from you and then being produced into every copy of the book, or having like a more fixated spot that is integral to the plot. So it's all very interesting stuff.
Like that one that's blacked out for the feature, right? Like those scenes didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't even a sketch, because like, you know, the activities, right?
Yep.
Like where it was like, what are you going to do with Brian, the character, you know, playing Frisbee or whatever? Like I couldn't even sketch it because I had no idea what it was going to be. So that stuff happened in real time. And another good example of this kind of evolution during the development was the art contest, right? For the picture frame.
Yep.
You know, which, I mean, if you guys did, maybe this is some of the hot Easter eggs that you guys want. This is why you come here for these kind of things. But like that picture frame in the living room of the first book was originally D'Angelo the horse, because I thought it was funny, because I thought it was humorous. And not to say, I mean, where would we be now if Cuddles was never, you know, but like that was something that was already fully done. And then it seemed like a way to engage people and involve people, but that wasn't the plan during
that originally came out like I said, hey, Bricks O'Brien should have a penguin companion, because the joke, especially on the live shows, was me in the penguin suit waddling across the scene, which was from a charity camp. So like I have this thing with penguins, so it felt fitting that like, hey, you know, if I were to develop one mascot character at the time, because Polly and Cecilia were not, you know, prominent, whatever, what would that character look like? And yeah, it was Lindsay Douglas who came up with the idea for Cuddles, and then that really became like a little Easter egg right over here that ended up being much more substantial as time went on. But it was you who really adapted it to the art style, and then I made the backstory for the character, and it made sense a lot for Pro Gamer's Guide to Making Friends to have her be the focus of it, whereas Polly was the focus really of book one, Cuddles for book two, and then who knows what happens in the future, right? But don't ask me where in the Pro Gamer timeline this makes sense, where Cuddles is not part of this book, but she's featured there. I have no clue. Don't ask me.
No, I mean, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
just be here.
Just keep watching. Cecilia ate the pizza. The jelly beans are there because of reasons and whatever.
Well, here, one of my favorite things that Brian has done in Pro Gamer Guide lore is Googled, should cats eat pizza, or can cats eat pizza?
Yes. Yeah.
And the exact like response was like, ideally no. That was but not a definitive no.
Right.
Just ideally no.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing goes with one of the kids when I was reading at a school was like, hey, parrots cannot eat chocolate chip cookies. What is that thing that Polly is fed? And then it wasn't until I got my bird buddy and then I realized what a soot ball was, where it's just like a ball of like maggots and grains and stuff.
Maggots.
And it's all the stuff that birds love, and it's just concentrated in a ball. And I'm like, that's what that is. Because obviously, that's what it is. It's not some.
And see, the thing that's beautiful about this is it all seems so wonderfully put together. And it's like on the back end and through development, sometimes it is kind of like things change so drastically and differently as it kind of forms. But the end product is so beautiful. And you're like, oh, look, it had it all together.
Well, what I really wanted and what I had envisioned for this project in general Pro Gamer's Guide was to make as cohesive of a world as possible from the beginning, because when you look at, for example, Star Wars, it is such a discombobulated art style, varies the direction and the intention of the characters and the story and because it's over such a long period of time. And obviously not comparing this to Star Wars, not quite yet, but I wanted something more.
Mr. Lucas.
Mr. Lucas over here with the sticky notes on the walls. I'm like, let me make something that is as cohesive as it can be, but still adding to it. And I think all things considered, we did pretty well with the first Kickstarter here. The biggest takeaways for sure, no apparel, absolutely no apparel on a Kickstarter campaign. Don't do that. Because trying to get different sizes between different cuts and colors of absolute logistical nightmare. Secondly, most importantly, no water bottles. Water bottles are not a thing because I ordered water bottles that actually were nicer than what is pictured here. And then it actually, you could tell this part of the story, Kevin, for those that don't know.
Yeah, we had water bottles as part of the campaign, and it utilized artwork that was already made for the book. So like nothing new was created for it, but it was a good idea at the time. Water's featured in the book, and you got the stuff in a little early, and so you sent me, or maybe we met up and I got one from you at an event, I think. But I had one in my possession early, before distribution of the campaign, and I gave it to my son. I'm like, here you go, your water bottle, enjoy. And he has his backpack, and he has the little pocket on the side, and that's where he always put his water bottle. And there was one day where he was, I can't remember if he was getting on the bus or getting off. I think he was getting off the bus, and it just so happens at his angle, it just slipped out of that pocket, and it hit the ground, my driveway at my house, and it shattered like glass would shatter. And I was so confused because that's a plastic water bottle. It felt like I was in some kind of alternate dimension, and some reality bending magic. I was like, what? And he was also a little dumbfounded. He was just like, oh. And we collected the items, and I sent you a message. I'm like, your water bottle shattered. I was like, I don't understand it. But it did, it shattered like glass. But so you were like, no way, I gotta test this theory. And you did. And yours also shattered, but it's all about the angle of impact.
Yes.
Right? Because it had hit on the spout. And if it hit at that spout with the neck of the water bottle, it for some reason it shattered.
So it was very easy replicable, where if it were dropped on the side, right? Where the longer side, it was fine because the impact was distributed. But if you did it on the bottom corner or the top, it there's pictures of it. I don't think we have them available right here.
Like glass.
And so I emailed the people, and I'm like, your product is faulty. The water bottles shatter when they're dropped at waist height on the ground, and they're like, oh, well, we never said they're shatterproof.
Actually, if you re-look at the listing, it does not say shatterproof. And
I'm like, I had very not family-friendly thoughts about how I felt about that.
You didn't think to get the volcano insurance, bro. Should have got the volcano insurance.
So that was, and what I tried to do is I tried to rationalize. I'm like, okay, could this possibly be a giveaway item? Can we include it as a freebie? Yeah. But if I, so pro gamer tip, if I willingly know this product is faulty and I give it to kids and families, boy, that gets me in trouble.
So we're no. much like the mountain of ET cartridges, the NES ET cartridge in the middle of the desert. Where is the surplus of Pro Gamer's Guide water bottles?
So I got 3 cases of them. I think it cost me $1,500 for those water bottles. That was just a straight up loss.
It's a drop in the bucket for someone with a net worth of $2.
Clearly. But one case of them was tossed into the trash at my former office, and then two cases of them ended up, and they're still there at my grandparents' house because my grandfather was adamant. You can give them to family. It's fine. I'm like, Phil, we can't. We shouldn't. We really. All right. So I left them there. They are not available for purchase or acquiring anywhere. If I know that they are faulty and I give them to you, that's a scandal. And I'm not trying.
We don't need that. We don't need that.
No, not trying to do that. So,
yeah.
And obviously, like $32,000 for a children's book is incredible. And errors like that.
14.
Yes, goal of 14, which was hit day one as a surprise announcement. Very crazy. Stuff like that, unfortunately, happens, though, that you just, I could not have predicted buying the water bottles and having them shatter. And is it worth it to ship and get new? And like, no, I'd rather just give people a store credit and they can redeem it at their leisure and whatever. And a lot of people did. So it ended up working out. Same thing for the shirt. You could get a Pro Gamers Guide shirt, which was available for a long time. Other stuff now is too as well. So
the very shirt in question.
There you go, right there. Exactly. So those were lessons from Pro Gamers Guide number 1. And then for when we were going into book 2, we had a lot of ideas on like what a book 2 would look like. And it became very apparent after Healthy Habits, developing the fundamentals of, how you should kind of structure life ideally. What makes gaming that much more impactful for kids and families, and how can you go about facilitating meaningful friendships in the real world? Because during the lockdown period, which is where this was really a thing and then progressed, meeting people online is fairly easy. You go to a live stream chat, you're on Discord, you're wherever. But when it came to meeting people in real life, how do you pull that off? Because that's kind of weird and awkward, which is why Pro Gamer's Guide to Making Friends was solidified, and Cuddles the Penguin being the baby penguin, the baby pet pal of the group, it made sense to be the focus for book number 2. And we had a lot of demand, obviously, for a sequel or a follow-up based on how book number 1 went. And we did a lot of things differently with this Kickstarter campaign compared to the first one. But this one, like the level of the artwork, I'll just say for you, Kevin, and you know this too, because we talk about it a lot, is just next level because you were more adamantly focusing on this in this time. We had really fleshed out the art style, the world, and what the what are the guidelines of the world that we developed. So, and this is actually our first time talking about making friends as a campaign, as a whatever, like ever. So what were some of your favorite parts of making Pro Gamers Guide to Making Friends, and then any of the Kickstarter stuff you were watching in the background?
I definitely, as you mentioned earlier, I was a little stretched during the first book. And it's because I was committed to something else at the time, and still something else I was really proud of. But so I wasn't giving Pro Gamers Guide to Healthy Habits 100% of my focus, whereas Pro Gamers Guide to Making Friends had 100% of my focus the entire time. That was the priority. So I wanted to really lean in, and the word I kept saying, and I mentioned this to you, was immersion. I wanted it to feel more like an immersion into this world than the other one. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of environments and landscapes and fully fleshed out backgrounds, but I understand the importance of them into bringing you into this world. And so this second book, I knew I was going to have to get by that. I was going to have to really lean into providing these vast, expansive, and vast is a relative term, but like really pulling somebody in, and also just with everything, with the merch items, with the graphic assets for marketing or social. Like I was like, I'm going to dial it up for everything. And even stuff that most people probably wouldn't even notice. So like line weight. right? Which is a very technical art term. Like I need to hone in the line weight where everything has the same outer line thickness and then the inner line. Like I mean, like going in, like I need to make sure it's the right brush number for every spread, right? Like I didn't do that on the. I was like, it looks good, it's great. And I mean, they weren't sketchy lines, but you could tell with the brushes I was using last time and a little bit of my time, it just wasn't to a degree of polish that this one is. Um, I knew because the bar had already been set high that I had to surpass the bar because that's what we do. You can't just go back. You got to go forward. But the other thing that was very different between these is on the other campaign, with the exception of the cameos and some of the things that we needed input from backers, the book was almost done. This one, the book was not even started. So it was like we were fleshing out the campaign and we needed like a logo and a cover and a couple spreads to make the case, to give the proof of concept. But I didn't really start working on it in earnest until I think much closer to the launch, if not the campaign had already launched, which was very different than the other book. But yeah, I really tried to just give it my all and just really, really pay attention to every single detail. Whether that was making sure there were highlights, right? Like, yeah, I put shadows, but did I put highlights? I don't think I did a lot in the other book, but I'm like, no, everything's going to have a shadow and a highlight. All the line art is going to, line weights are going to match. I also did a lot of comparison, right? I was like, what did this look like last time? I need to match it. And I kind of just went more with memory on the first one. I was like, that's how it looked.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know, the weight of it, maybe. The weight is like, this needs to have this attention. And I think a little bit of that comes from partnering with so many people in other contexts that just don't seem to really want to lean in. And it's very frustrating. I know that's something that frustrates you a great deal. And it frustrates me too. I tend to kind of, put up with for a little bit and I go, all right, it's not worth my time. And I just check out and move somewhere else.
Yeah.
But knowing that is the reception that happens a lot with people you work with, it's like, man, I just wish you would care a little bit more. Like I'm not asking, but I just wish you would care a little bit more. I'm like, I'm not going to be that creative / business partner that's just not going to care enough. I'm going to probably care too much. So that's kind of the mindset I went in with it.
And all of this progressed much smoother than last time because we had that more refined vision for everything. When it came to the Kickstarter itself, and I'm looking at all this and I'm like, what are all the things that I learned even from the time of this concluding? Because technically the Kickstarter and all the stuff, I mean, BobCon is like one of the last things that is a part of the stretch goals and everything else. Yeah. But compared to last time, raised 33,769, 278 backers. So it's less backers than last time, but by comparison, this book is more easily available on Amazon and other retailers, whereas before it was kind of like, eventually we hope it kind of will. So a lot of the logistical stuff, the behind the scenes stuff, including putting the text into the book itself, was handled by me because I'm like, I want to make it look better. So I made it look better and changed the whole direction for it. And I had never done it before, but like I did it. And I think it came out pretty well with like the different color boxes and stuff. And we also had the shipping done afterward with a platform called Pledge Manager, which a lot of other Kickstarters use. And I thought would be a valuable resource for, adding on stuff and having a pre-order system and whatever. The long story short with all that was like majority of people paid and it was totally fine, shipping charge, whatever. But there was too many people, in my opinion, that just like assumed it was a one-time payment. And then I try to contact people and they just do not follow up. And I'm like, yo, I want to give you your stuff. Like I literally have it packed under my table right here to go, but you just can't reach out to people. So that was another learning from this whole Kickstarter campaign. I love every aspect of both books, and seeing how much work went into this by comparison of the first one. It just
And
like
this
the
one also wasn't secret. This had
no.
a coming soon page.
Yeah, this one had a coming soon page. What unfortunately happened for me leading up to this was me coming to realization on a 4-year developing burnout series
Whoops.
that,
Whoops.
that I was having. So like, you know, during book one, I was still very much like, you know, posting YouTube
Yeah.
videos and like I was much
Yeah.
more, I guess, active in all the other things because we were
Yeah.
working behind the scenes on this and whatever. When
Yeah.
you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, like there's a whole other arm of or division of people that can come on and like really flesh this thing out.
Yeah.
And not only was I like basically at the 5-year anniversary, I realized, oh man, I'm beyond my measure. I need to scale things back because, you know, the bald spot ain't getting any more full of hair, right? So there was that. And then I was trying to reach out to people and be like, hey, can we work together for a like a marketing or like do something?
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
it wasn't kicking up the traction it was, even though like $33,000 for a book is nuts, and all the people supporting is not like by every measure it went unbelievably well, but it still
Yeah.
wasn't enough to like get us with an actual publisher like a Scholastic or Penguin Random House or whatever, or
Yeah.
have this whole marketing thing happen. So with this book, I was like, you know what? Instead of focusing on all this other stuff that we don't have at our disposal, let's focus on what we do have, which is why I wanted to do the text in the book and really have like a much more personal touch with a lot of this stuff and make sure it was up to snuff, especially as we move forward. So that was a lot of my takeaways on it. And like a lot of the rewards, like by comparison last time, you know, we didn't do the water bottle, but all this stuff came to fruition. Like we got the Cuddles pin, we got the friendship bracelets, which are very cool. The lanyard, right? Kevin, you're wearing that now. And some of this stuff, you know, is ongoing, but none of it was really ball dropping. And I mean, you're watching BobCon right now. You get the music tracks, right?
Yep.
Lot of really cool stuff that came out of here that helped like build up the brand even more so. There's obviously still some stuff that didn't pan out the way I wanted it to, but that's a part of the process of learning and developing everything and
Yeah.
making it happen, you know?
And can I say, if you wouldn't mind, scroll up to the drawing guide part.
Yes.
So, and I just said this to someone recently. You know, in my tenure, right, of an artist and creating, I mean, I have drawn, like, I'm not exaggerating, I've drawn thousands of things. You know, from those of you guys that have watched my own drawing streams, I mean, just live stream requests, like thousands, thousands and thousands and thousands of things I've drawn. And I've done lots of commissions for people. I've done other books for myself, for other people. I've helped a lot of people bring their ideas to life. A lot of people. But nothing has impacted me personally more than seeing kids create fan art of these characters that I helped develop. Like nothing. There's nothing I have done. When we finished that first book and we had the write your name on the sheet, and then it didn't stop, right? It was just the Facebook group, the email inbox was just like 50 images of like kids signing it and holding it, and I'm like it was such a surreal experience, because I mean, that is what every artist wants. It's like your work to impact someone. And it's so, I mean, maybe it's obvious and maybe it's not obvious, but like it was kind of in my head the least likely place that I would get that feeling from. Again, it's not meant as any kind of offense. It's just like, that's not what I would have assumed. Like, this is not where I would have assumed that impact would have come from. And it continues to come from this place, which is incredible. And you know, when we were working with these families that volunteered to test out the draw guides, like it still, I have trouble processing this because it takes me back to being a young aspiring artist. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years old, right? Like just like these kids, and buying the how do you draw Super Mario book from the fair, and how do you draw the X-Men, and how do you draw SpongeBob, and I had those books and I followed those guides, and it is like it like I can't articulate it. I can't. It's just like nothing else I have done as an artist has delivered such an impact than this, which is crazy. It's like surreal.
And
Brian gets fan art all the time.
well, I mean, listen, I don't want to say you get used to it, but like seeing it happen, and I've known for a long time the impact that my work has had with families, because I get, you know, messages, and I have that kind of sense already. And it's one thing, and this is where I get caught up on all of Pro Gamers Guide. Like, you know, we are not published by a big house. We are not, you know, traveling the country to conventions or selling right now hundreds of thousands of you. Like we're not there yet, but we are seeing the impact that these characters and stories have with the people that are supporting us and that are discovering us for the first time with Pro Gamers Guide. And that is where I get the motivation to keep continuing and going, because, you know, if it's not for the fan art like this and the messages and the whatever, you know, there's plenty of ways in this life. There's Crochet Polly right there, right? I got them all in my background. You know, there's plenty of ways that you can make money and scathe by in life and whatever, but to have the impact with people and see these characters resonate so much with people, and it all coming from the place of like wanting to make a positive impact in the lives of kids who are gaming, who would otherwise maybe look at a book and be like, oh, this is stupid, I'm not reading this, where it's something they're interested about with, you know, original characters and an original world that's obviously based on like this idea of Brix O'Brien, but then it becoming its own character. And then, you know, your experience with drawing just, it complements everything so much. And it's like seeing the fan art from kids, it's a culmination of all these things coming together. And that's what keeps us motivated to keep going. Like literally, you can't tell right now, but I got chills thinking about like how awesome it is to see it all resonate with people. So in case you ever, even if I have a whole bin of fan mail over here that I haven't opened because I haven't dedicated the time to, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate it. That doesn't mean that I want less of that. Like that means the world to us. So and you know, we hold a banner contest in my Discord for like Pro Gamers Guide centric stuff, and seeing crazy situations the characters get into with that. And
I mean, I've redrawn fan art, like the circle, the circle of life in the symbiotic relationship where, you know, we've had people make fan art of these characters, and then I've seen the fan art and been so inspired that I turn around and it's just unreal. like
this one right here, you know, and so here's what happens. So first of all, let me say, not everybody has great ideas. I'm just going to say,
well, they can't all be winners.
No. And even my ideas are not winners all the time. Okay. I'm kind of perfect, but not like that.
Kind of perfect.
I'm perfect as a human. We're all perfect in our own individual ways, but whatever. So what happens is I'll get an idea for something and then I'll run with it. Like I already know, like if we were to do an animated movie, I kind of know what would happen. Right. Yeah. When I see this and, you know, the fan art is drawn of it, and then you take it and you adapt it to the style, and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. This is how it could all develop in real time. Like all of the, like, if you ask me to tell you, and I'm not going to tell you, but if you ask me to tell you like how these characters play into the story and flesh out, I could tell you right now, because That's just how my mind works. And that's what I love more than maybe more than playing video games, is like developing stories and characters like this and seeing what situations I end up in. Like this concept fleshed out by you is unbelievable in its own way. But enough of that's beside the point.
Enough of that.
That's beside the point. It kind of leads into where I want things to progress with Pro Gamers Guide, because we obviously have book 2. As of right now, it's available on my shop. It'll be available on yours once ducks are in a row and I got to send them to you and whatever. Available
That's
on
Brian. Brian's the duck.
Do you want the books? I'll send them. I didn't know you wanted them.
I'm ready. I mean, whenever.
Let me just add it to my list of all the things.
Put it on the chart.
Put it on the sticky board. So there's all this, and then the goal. Like, okay, a lot of people are asking, obviously, about a third book, about more.
A lot of people ask a lot of things.
They do. They ask for plushies. They ask for and don't even get me started on those. There's a lot of that stuff. And where I stand with Pro Gamers Guide is it needs to be out in the world more prominently before we make a third book. And that's not because I lack confidence in, the ability to make it. And obviously $33,000 plus with the pledge manager stuff is like, again, unfathomable for a picture book like this. Yeah. Like there are picture books that pop up on Kickstarter pretty much every day, and we've succeeded with this. But where I also view my position as like a creator in my life personally is I focus on a lot of things all the time. And Kevin and I are two people, Kevin is illustrating all of this book. He's also the administrative director of the superhero project. He just moved. He's a father of 2. I have all the Bricks O'Brien things. I have the conventions. I got the podcast. I got the side thing. I got. So I want to flesh out the team even more so in places where it matters the most, so we can get Pro Gamers Guide out to more people. So that way, I don't want to say if, but would you say when there's a third book of some kind at this point? Is it a when or an if? Do we know? Do you know?
I mean, who's to say? I think we should just stop.
Right here. That's it.
We're done.
It's done.
Because every film has been great with just 1 and 2, and then you're done.
Well, I mean, you get Terminator. Yeah, Terminator 1 and 2 is pretty good.
I think, hey, you know what you say? Your answer is if people keep wanting them, I guess we should keep making them.
Yes. I think I speak for both of us when we say this is the most like objectively successful one-off thing that either of us has done, right?
Oh yeah. So, don't even get me started on all the unsuccessful things I've done.
So, I mean, me too. So what really, after this, we obviously haven't done a new book or anything, but the thing that popped up that like, obviously I'm very excited about is this guy right here, Pro Gamers Guide Coffee Kingdom Quest, which is obviously an homage to Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and kind of this inadvertently what is a dream of what I've said a couple times, like, obviously this is Pro Gamers Guide. It'd be really dumb if it weren't a video game at some point, right?
Sure.
But developing a video game and developing picture books are two very different things. So this is kind of like a proof of concept for like what could be. Now, obviously, the outfits these characters are in, I'm not going to be emulating Mario because I don't need Nintendo knocking on my door for bad reasons. I need them knocking on my door for good reasons, like the sponsored video. So there'll be different things, right? But this is kind of what panned out here. So I was originally going to have Kevin. Ooh, let me see if I can find this in the archive somewhere. Because I said to Kevin,
so he's looking for this. This was like I had just finished the book. I was like, Pro Gamers Guide to Making Friends is done. And you get into like a good flow. Especially when you do like a large scale project like this. So if you're working on something for weeks/months at a time, you just get very comfortable and it's like the iron's hot. And I asked him, I was like, is there anything you want me to do in these characters with the style before I'm going to put it up? And then it does not mean I can't return to it, but like
Right.
the iron's hot right now. And yeah, he was like, I have an idea, which is always what is how things start. I have an idea. It's like, okay, go on.
And it was to do Pro Gamer's Guide, like a Pro Gamer's Guide inspired Paper Mario sort of a thing, where obviously the partner characters are emblematic of those you see in the game and in the art, in the costumes and all that.
As a poster originally, just a thing,
Yes.
a one-off piece.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to find it, but I can't find it right now. It was originally supposed to be in the style of the GameCube cover of Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. And my intuition spoke and said, Nintendo with Super Mario RPG did the Japanese box art for the Switch remaster. What if for Paper Mario, they're going to do the same thing? Because we didn't know at the time. Yeah. And so now that was a correct assumption to make because that happened. And, could make this whole artwork, make it a numbered exclusive. You have the collectible cards that are now a thing going forward. There's all sorts of cool stuff that went with it. And then you really had a fun time with this in a couple different ways. One of them was specifically these three characters over here. Gummy, Grump, and then Princess Cinnamon. So talk about the development of. Let's go with Gummy, then Cinnamon, then Grump here. What triggered this design specifically for you?
Oh yeah, zoom, maximum zoom. So I had I get the red glow on my face of how close. So yeah, look at it's intense. The gummy bear. So I mean, after you do the main cast, like what do you do after, right? So I was kind of brainstorming things and options, and I wanted to homage the first book, and in the first book we had the Sugar Rush with the gummy bears, and I thought there might be something there. And then also you have a little bit of a notorious reputation with poorly drawing gummy bears. That's a thing. And I'm like, I think I can create something with this. And the idea of a cute, adorable, precious gummy bear as a vile source of evil is very humorous. So I thought it was like, I think it makes sense. So I slapped the cutest face I could on it. I literally just copied the outfit from the game. And that is how that devilish character came to be.
Well, it's very menacing.
It's very, super very menacing.
So we had the gummy, which is obviously not part of the main cast, but then, as you said, developed it. There's also Princess Cinnamon, this character. So originally, Kevin contacted me with the sketches of everything, and it was actually not supposed to be Princess Cinnamon, but it was actually a different flavor of coffee, which ironically I have that I got earlier from Dunkin' Donuts. But it was.
You see how on the money I was.
Yes, I know it was very on the money. It was supposed to be Princess Caramel.
Yeah,
of
that was the name I came up with.
Yeah. And it wasn't until the memes of me having my spicy redhead significant other was developing in the live streams and elsewhere that I'm like, Kevin, it has to be a redhead on this one. And, cinnamon obviously being a coffee flavor that I and other people get, it made a lot of sense for this here with the mug and coffee bean tiara.
She's adorable. I think she's great.
I think she's great as well, man.
I like her princess swoon.
Yes,
like she's swooning for her knight in shining overalls. But yeah, Princess. I mean, I was trying to think of obviously like a Princess Peach kind of character because that's what it's based on. And I also have always really liked the fact that Mario and Peach have. There's definitely some kind of design elements that they're playing on each other with, and then like Luigi and Daisy have some, like we go into the eyelashes and stuff, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I was like, what does an opposing character look like? And I was like, I mean, my man is all about the coffee, so we're gonna make a coffee princess. That's what we're gonna do. It wasn't the only. I actually had two ideas. I was like, it's either be coffee or it's chicken parm. And I was like, chicken parm seems like how do I turn chicken parm into a princess? So I was like, I'm just gonna make a coffee princess. So yeah, came up with a coffee princess, and then just change different elements. Like Peach has the jewel, and I was like, it's got to be a coffee bean. I thought the cup, the iced coffee, and the crown, the tiara was ridiculous, which also made it amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, little coffee mug, earrings, the dress. You can't see it in this shot, but her dress has a swirl. Yeah, you can see a little bit of it. Has a cinnamon swirl, like if you're looking at the drizzle in a cup. And yeah, there she is, Princess Cinnamon. That's your princess.
The high attention to detail. And then we have the final character, which is Grump, as it's known in the Pro Gamers Guide Coffee Kingdom Quest universe. This is based on a design for a troll, which is very interesting. We've had some concepts of the troll develop over time, because obviously when you're gaming in real life and online in general, there are people who are trolls and very divisive. So it initially started with this kind of red and spiky eared, very devilish looking troll, which
menacing.
is not quite innocent, but definitely like based off of the larger character from the first book that we see like running away, right?
Yeah, he's got like 2 horns and a cape in the first book.
Yeah, and so obviously it's a little evil and menacing looking. Not that trolls aren't evil and menacing looking, but I thought going with something a bit more what I really believe trolls look like in real life behind the keyboard is something more pudgy and with the dust on the fingertips from eating the pasta right from your bowl instead of with a fork and spoon or Doritos or whatever.
Did you say who's eating pasta?
A troll.
Scooping up some pasta, some spaghetti, some spaghetti.
Just like that,
Give me some of that spaghetti.
Yeah, like you're playing Overwatch 2, and then you just grab the noodles and just like that.
Disgusting. But yeah, that seems like very trollish behavior.
Yeah. So that's where that idea came from for those.
And then it evolved. Yeah, look at there. Final evolution.
Yeah, and then we have characters down here, maybe some other trolls. We have the chicken, horse, and then a mouse looming here.
Those are the back, right? Those are like the back of the quote unquote Goombas from the first book. They're not
right
Goombas
here.
Really, but they're more like actual just giant mushrooms because they don't walk. They don't have feet.
Right.
But those are the back of those from and also the toadish hat from the first book. I really wanted, like, that's the thing that I mentioned earlier. I'm really trying to keep pulling from the existing lore as much as it makes sense to. You don't always have to reinvent or create every time. It's just continuing to bring homages to it. Yeah.
And we definitely see that here. So by far my favorite piece of individual artwork you've ever done. Not that the books are amazing, but like one piece.
They're okay.
No,
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was the time to do it, because I don't think it would have been as special at a different time. Not that I wouldn't have made it great, but like it was the time to do it.
Yeah, definitely. So that came after a Pro Gamers Guide to Making Friends. Obviously, Pro Gamers Guide Coffee Kingdom Quest is not an actual book or media of any kind, not a game.
It's just a really cool merch bundle.
Yeah. And then the idea that hopefully it's a game of some kind one day, or elements of that are taken into future things in Pro Gamers Guide, which is kind of where we're at today, trying to get Pro Gamers Guide out there to even more kids and families, developing the characters, the world alongside all of you, which is actually something that's been on my mind for a while. Pro Gamers Guide is very much very a part of the Bricks O'Brien and Kevin Hinkle communities, and then there hasn't been a place other than the Kickstarters where people are able to kind of get behind something and add on to what we're already doing on a continuous basis behind the scenes and sharing that more often. And what I have been not doing for a very long time is stuff on my personal Patreon, the Bricks O'Brien Patreon, because infinite list of things on the list and trying to figure out what to do with it. And that's when everything became very clear to take this idea of a recurring place where people can have a community and build upon it and all that, was to take what I'm doing with Patreon here and develop it into a Pro Gamers Guide Patreon, which then evolved into making the Pro Gamers Guide fan club.
Yep.
This was an idea I brought by Kevin a little while ago. I was thinking about it for a minute because I do a lot of things all the time. I already do so many videos and live streams and stuff. So like what of what we already do could use a severe amount of new stuff, cool stuff added to it. And that was definitely Pro Gamers Guide. So one of the things I want to do is I want to bring on somebody who can basically be contacting bookstores and libraries and hospitals and wherever else that might be interested in having Pro Gamers Guide and seeing if that's something they're interested in. And obviously you and I have a bunch of stuff to do. And if we just kept it to us, you know, doing this thing here, it couldn't potentially reach where we want it to go. So expanding the team a little bit and getting as much coverage as we can. So y'all helping with the Pro Gamers Guide fan club, buying a copy of the book, but even more so, just like the stuff when we share it, leaving a like, commenting. If you buy it on Amazon, leaving a review, things like that all help. And especially the fan mail, the pictures, whatever you have, because you know, you could give us $100,000 each, and obviously that's great. But in terms of Pro Gamers Guide, like if one person enjoys it, that doesn't necessarily have the same impact as if we have a lot of people helping out just a little bit, especially with where we're at like right now. So there's all different ways that you can support, paid or unpaid. So don't worry if you're like, oh, I can't. Just being here and being a big fan of what we do is very appreciated. So thank you.
And it has, you know, Pro Gamers Guide has its own presence on all the same places that we're already on. You know, if you guys didn't know, it has a YouTube channel, it has a Instagram account, it has a Facebook page, it has, I think it's on X. I mean, I think it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's got its own presence, its own standalone accounts and presence everywhere that you guys probably already are, and you might not know that. So I mean, it all helps. It's all just another little push up the hill.
Yeah, and obviously doing this from the ground up is a lot of work, but like with any of this stuff, I enjoy it so much, and I love sharing and creating stories. That's what I believe I'm born to do, regardless of any of this stuff. Is do that, and in whatever form it takes. So like, it's a pleasure bringing something like this to life, and also doing it alongside somebody who's not only a really great friend of mine, but also someone I'm happy to work with and who is really good at this and gets it, because there's a lot of people in life that I meet, and especially artists or otherwise, that like, and you know this, Kevin, there's people who get it, whatever it is, and there's definitely people that don't. So you are one of the people that gets it. Yeah. So I've said time and time again, this is not just like the Bricks O'Brien book, even though some people might call that right now. I see it like this is something that can live beyond either of us, and there will be people that care about what Cecilia is up to more so than they care about you or I as people, which is kind of, I don't know, not sad and I don't know, weird, is it? Whatever but it takes a life on its own, is what I'm trying to say. And that's alongside you, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This is our thing that we're bringing to life. So it's really awesome and really cool, man.
Hey, thanks, man.
Oh, that's it. That's all you had.
No, I want.
No, that's it. No, yeah. Hey,
you know what,
hey, man.
You know
Say, man.
What I find funny is, first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate it. What I find so funny is what happens a lot when I'm at a show and somebody like picks up a copy, at least Pro Gamers Guide 1. I haven't been to a show with the second one, but the people are always really kind of like, you know, enamored by the visuals, and they'll be like, "Did you write this?" I'll be like, "No." And there's all like a visible disappointment. And then the number of times you're somewhere and like, "Did you draw this?" No. It's like no one, whenever we're at somewhere, they always ask the opposite of, it's like, I just think that's a funny little anecdote. But I do enjoy working with you. I enjoy working with Brian. He's a good writer, whether he thinks he is or not. He is. I don't touch the writing at all, guys. Like at all.
That's true.
At all. I don't want to.
Here's let me play it out for all of you. I approach Kevin with the idea, and I vocalize what the story is. This is exactly how we do it.
Yeah.
I vocalize the story. We do the storyboard for the whole thing, which we'll share on the Pro Gamers Guide fan club.
Yeah.
The whole storyboard, right?
Yeah. Very rough.
Very rough. He goes ahead and polishes it. I give him feedback or whatever. And it becomes its fully developed page in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's dead. Done.
So although the artwork is very intense, like it is like as equal 50% as you can get compared to the writing and the whatever, if not more so.
Yeah.
I'm the fun one that has to deal with the barcodes on the reprint of the book needing to be put back onto the new book in the warehouse in Keene. I'm the one driving the books to the warehouse in Keene, New Hampshire, and developing out the fan club and finding somebody to redo the website that's more qualified than I am. I'm the one that has to reach out to all the different children's hospitals and get the books into there and hand deliver them into Boston and other places and get the partnership and get the blah, 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 blah. So we all have our place to like.
We have our place to be.
Yes.
And when you got the shipment of the second one, and it was you were like drenched in sweat, and you're like, guys, like the books are in, and I'm like in a suit. I'm like, oh, all right, books are in.
So, and it's obviously not a competition. It's definitely not a competition of who does more, but that gives you like a gist of like how much of a mountain of stuff there is, how much of a mountain there is to climb, and y'all being here to support in any way you can means that much more. So thank you. Do you have anything else for the people before we head out of here and continue BobCon?
If anybody is an aspiring artist, keep drawing. It's always what I'll say to every aspiring artist. Keep drawing. If you want to draw for a living, draw now. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I make mistakes. I've made massive mistakes. I forgot to color Cuddle's face white one time. So don't worry about it. It's all about learning. It's about learning and practicing. And don't be afraid to pursue what you're passionate about.
What I'd like to leave y'all with is something that, when reframed for this, really makes a lot of sense. But you know how in like life you go to the department store and it's all decked out for the holidays?
Sure. Yeah.
And you think like, wow, it just kind of feels picturesque, and it happens. It just all appears, right? Mm-hmm. Like it becomes Christmas. It becomes whatever. And it's not it appearing out of thin air and setting the tone and making that magic happen. It is people behind the scenes who are physically taking the wreaths and the bows and the whatever and putting them up and making that magic for themselves, just like at Disney World and wherever else.
Yeah.
I was putting the text in the book and making sure everything looked proper as best as I possibly could. And I know when I was looking at examples of books, I'm like, how did they do this? It's like a magical process. And it's not a magical process. It is actively doing it. And there are mistakes in those books that you will never be able to spot that we could, but that is all part of the process. You are in charge of making your own magic and impact in whatever work you put out there. So don't get caught up in your head about if it's perfect or if it can be improved. Put out what you can when you can. And then there's always time, especially in the world of video games, to do a remaster. So just remaster it, and that's fine. It'll be taken care of anyways. So yeah.
It'll be good.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Everything's gonna be fine.
Thank you guys for listening.
Hey, thanks for being here. We'll do this again sometime. I don't know when, but eventually.
Who's
Pro
to say?
Gamers Guide fan club is available for you to go be a member at any level, including for free over on shop.brickshillbrian.com. Behind the scenes stuff and more perks coming soon. Final question before we get out of here, Kevin. When are we getting book 3?
Exclamation point. Book 3 in the chat, please.
When
The answer is we'll keep making them if you keep wanting them.
Boom. There it is. Thank you for your time, Kevin.
I'm just happy to be here.